Hey there gamers! I'm super excited to share a new gem for all you cozy capitalists out there. As we know, Haunted Chocolatier is coming out sometime soon and it's got me in a shopkeeping mood. Some people think I only post about new games for sponsorships, but it's for exactly this reason. Sometimes you find a bit of gold. So what if Stardew Valley had already been taken over by Joja Mart when you arrived from the big city? Well, say hello to this county. It came out just a few days ago and it's gonna be one of the better shop sims I've played all year. I played a bit in early access but got so hooked that I just had to do a full 100 days. Kinda ironic to play such a profit-based game for free, I know, but I digress. Like and subscribe for more Shop Lily and let me know if you'll be checking out this county for yourself. I quickly created the Joja employee that I've always dreamt of being whilst I was riding in a bus to my new home in a small town called Blomkast. I'll be working under my corporate overlord aunt to run a supermarket. Still on the bus ride to Blomkast, I got some sweet music to my ears, a beautiful heartfelt ad for this county where everything is always on sale. Customers of all shapes and sizes are gonna be flocking to experience such supreme savings. This catchphrase kinda reminds me of a certain stunning shade of blues catchphrase. I get dropped off at the bus stop in Blomkast and I just gotta say, wow, look at these cute pixel graphics. I'm in love. My aunt's house is conveniently located right next to the bus stop. Our aunt teller has no time for idle chatter and immediately takes us to the supermarket where there is actually already an employee called Grace waiting for us. Aunt teller shows us her pride and joy, this county, which actually just got a new sign too. It's beautiful. Aunt Teller surprisingly won't actually be working in the shop and just made us Grace's problem to train. I guess Teller's glory days are a bit behind her. Grace even has a fancy job title to boot, Executive Shop Assistant, which just sounds like a bougie way of saying manager.
I am promoting you from assistant to the regional manager to assistant regional manager.
Grace gives me some PDA. Hey, get your heads out of the gutter. It's a personal digital assistant, okay? Not whatever y'all were thinking of. It's basically just where we'll be able to see our quests, inventory, and such. I met Guy the delivery guy who will be, you guessed it, delivering all our supermarket goods. I placed the shelves and coolers in the store as well as some items on the shelves. For now, I only have some basics like soda, toilet paper, apples, frozen fries, and milk. Grace makes us go through a practice run of managing the supermarket. Customers enter, grab the items they want or need, and then place it by the till where I then have to enter the amount, and if there's more than one, multiply the amount. Seems pretty easy to me. Aunt Ella was waiting outside this county just as we were heading to bed and showed us our new humble abode, a trailer. So not only will I be doing all the work of managing the supermarket, but I get a tiny trailer as a home. Best of all, there's a weird shed next to the trailer with some strange noises coming from it. Can this day get any better? Teller was up bright and early for the grand opening day. She ordered us to advertise it around town. Advertising the opening on the day of seems a bit late, but Aunt Teller won't hear nothing of it. I hung posters at the bus stop and at the harbor, which had a very distinctive fishy smell. I found a huge statue in town that was raised in honor of John Key, who seems to be the inventor of the double key ring. Truly an honor to behold the town hero. I met Elmer in the park. He is the mayor of this town and has only one interest, the upkeeping of the park and nothing else. I ran into another NPC called Miss Anderson, who will later on become the actual bane of my existence. We introduced ourselves and she told me about her cat Fred in excruciating detail. After hanging the lost poster outside the bar, I went in to introduce myself to its owner Hilda. She is the town gossip queen. If you need to know something about any of the town's residents, she's probably heard about it already. After getting a warm welcome at the Discounty grand opening, Grace gave me a last few tips for running the shop before my shift started. Miss Anderson was my first customer, and this will continue to be the trend throughout my playthrough. I despise her slow walking. Yeah, I know she's old and all, but get a move on, old lady. Grace showed me how to order some stock after my shift, and let's just say I accidentally went way overboard. I somehow didn't see that an order of an item came in a collection of 20s, so I used up all my gold to buy stock. Guess I won't be running out of these for a while to come. A very suspicious van was parked outside with a biological hazard symbol on it. What on earth was it doing here? The entrance to the woods was blocked off with more of those symbols on the barricades. Cornelius thought it was pretty fishy too. He is a journalist who reports on all local news and is looking into the weird fog that has been spreading in the blocked-off forest. He has his suspicions on who caused it, but we'll just have to see. I introduced myself to the two NPCs who frequent the docks, the old man Fisher named Fisher, who fishes for a living, and Barbara, who is the definition of a Nepo baby. She runs the Fishy Sticks factory and is very enthusiastic about the sticks that are fishy. Aunt Teller was waiting for me outside my trailer once again. No hello or good morning, just to follow her. One can really feel the love radiating off of her. She led me to Ted's hardware store where you can buy more shelves and coolers. I met Ted, the owner, inside, and he is really one of the only residents that try and make it a better and more sustainable place. I grabbed my new shelves and coolers and filled them up with items back at the supermarket. I even bought a seafood booster, but sadly don't have any seafood to boost. My aunt just can't get enough of me as she waits outside this county once again after my shift ends. In order to expand the shop, we'll have to make some trade deals with the folk living in town. First up was Barbara. Luckily, Aunt Teller already negotiated the trade deal for us. She'll supply us with some fishy sticks at a price, of course, and if we sell a bunch, we'll unlock some special perks. Neat! Farmer Carl was up next, but the poor man was currently unable to get to his farm as a massive tree fell over and blocked the way. The Mayor Almer hasn't lifted a finger to get rid of the tree as he's too engrossed with the upkeep of his beloved park. So Aunt Teller came up with a brilliant plan. I just had to gather all Farmer Carl's sheep and herd them to the park. I tried to strike up a deal with Fisher the Fisher, but it seems that he is Barbara's sole supplier. She was kind enough to offer to break up her monopoly, but only if I can sell all the fishmas sticks she supplied us with. I don't know who will want to buy these, as it sounds absolutely vile. She must struggle to sell these. Fish combined with cinnamon, nutmeg, and ginger sounds positively puke-worthy. After gathering all the sheep, I get to see Aunt Teller's master plan unfold. The sheep were eating all Almer's plants, and it really left him in a state of dismay. Almer doesn't care about anything but his precious park, so he'll probably escalate the problem of the fallen tree now that his plants are in danger. After the whole sheep debacle, the tree blocking access to the farm was magically removed. Funny how we just had to find the right motivation to get Almer to do something. I met Chester close to Carl's farm, and like a typical teenager, Chester was well versed in one-worded replies. Carl could finally get back to his farm, so I could negotiate a trade deal with him for discounty. Carl was open to it, and from now on he'll supply me with oats until I upgrade our trade deal. Back at the store, a box compactor was added to the back room, where if I have 3 empty boxes, I can just throw them in and it spits out a stack of boxes, which I can then recycle for some money. I immediately go check out this recycle station next to Ted's hardware store. He explained the ins and outs of the recycle process of different items. While I was there, I grabbed a few more shelves and coolers, along with another seafood booster. I was gonna need all the help I could get selling those vile fishmas sticks. On day 4, I discovered a delightful little shop hidden behind the enormous bank building. Antiques Antiques sell decorations for your shop and home, along with flooring and wallpaper. I grabbed a few things and and will definitely come by again. Before my shift began, Grace introduced yet another new addition to the store, a rewards program where you can get daily and weekly challenges. Once completed, you get rewarded with points that you can then redeem to unlock new stock or more inventory space. So after I successfully finished my shift, I noticed that I had actually completed one of these challenges. I unlocked white bread with my rewards points and made sure to order some for the store. I had sold enough fish sticks for Barbara during the day. She had her doubts, but this just proves that the right marketing can sell basically anything. This meant that the fish market was freed from Barbara's tyranny, and I was able to negotiate a trade deal with Fisher to get weekly fresh fish from him. Teller visited me early on day 5 to discuss the next steps in her scheme to dominate the Blomkest market. To do this, we'll need to tear down the old abandoned tea shop located right next to this county. Sounds like a solid plan, Teller. Elmer gave us his blessing for this expansion, but we'd actually have to talk with the owner when she comes to shop at this county. We would recognize her by her guy delivery uniform. You know, just a girl working at guy delivery. Today, Grace introduced yet another addition to the back room, a bucket and sponge for cleaning dirt. Now, dirt is super annoying. It makes customers incredibly slow when walking through it and makes any items in its direct vicinity less appealing to clients. Every time someone would bring in some dirt, I would rage behind my computer, thinking how slobbish these townsfolk were. As I finished up serving my corporate overlords, they rewarded me with a brand new screen after a hard day of hitting the cash register. You get a review on your performance daily, and if you did well, you get compensated with some gold. This shows a bunch of other stats like what you sold during the day as well. At first, I thought this was cute, but when you've sold heaps upon heaps of items during a day, and there's no way to skip this tallying of items, it gets supremely annoying. The customers have really come to love fishy sticks at this county, so I have sold enough to gain a perk with Barbara. Each trade deal has these, and are anything from reduced purchase price to additional crates a week. I chose the reduced purchase price as making more money will surely make the corporate overlords happy. Teller almost lost her marbles when seeing some littering in town. Instead of picking it up herself, she appointed me to pick up any empty can laying around town, as it would look bad for this county, and we can't have that, can we? Since the granny is always talking about what a diva her cat is, I had to go see this cat for myself. Not only did the cat hiss at me for no reason, but I don't think the cat is actually a cat. Who's gonna break the news to her? On my way to start my shift at the market, Teller surprised me with her cold-heartedness. She fired Grace after Grace had trained me in the ways of this county. I guess I was doing everything while Grace was just sitting in the back room looking at non-existent grass grow. Still, that's savage, Teller. We'll need to stay on our Aunt Teller's good side, otherwise we could be next on the chopping block. One good thing that came from Grace's sudden departure is that I can now open the shop at any time in the morning. So no more standing around twiddling my thumbs until 9 a.m. I unlocked some new stock for the store with my discounted rewards points and then headed to the bank next door. Gina, the owner of the closed down tea shop, stopped by during my shift and told me the bank would deal with the purchasing of the store. But of course, it wasn't as simple as just paying the bank a sum and acquiring the old tea shop. No, we will have to obtain the proper permits for this expansion. It was the end of my first week and Teller stopped by to let me know that I wouldn't be working on Sundays. This was just perfect as I had a bunch of things to get done for the expansion of the store. I stopped by Almer to have a chat about this permit I needed. Almer said he would sort the permit out for us, but he asked for a favor in return. I needed to get rid of some documents he had laying around discreetly. Now, I am not well versed in the art of corruption or embezzlement, but surely these documents could get our dear mayor in some serious trouble. I promptly discarded them in the trash, hoping this wouldn't come back to haunt me later on. I met an unusually charming NPC called Tammy. I think she has some problems with anger, but I think we'll be the bestest of friends soon. Derek the banker now wanted 3,000 gold for the building, which I didn't have, but soon will. My days were spent getting up at the crack of dawn, heading to the hardware store to buy some more shelves, coolers, and item boosters, gaining some new perks with my ongoing trade deals, buying stock for the store, and adding all the shelves and coolers I had bought to the store. My little store was getting cramped with everything I had placed, so when I finally made 3,000 gold from all my shifts on day 11, I headed straight to Derek to purchase that long-awaited expansion. Miss Anderson was really not happy with the discounty expansion taking over the old tea store. Granny, was it just supposed to stay abandoned until the end of time? My little shop gained a bunch of new space for items and storage. I spent the rest of the morning organizing my storage area, but was rudely interrupted by customers while I was still trying to find a spot for the new free shelves I got with the expansion. I begrudgingly assisted the customers till my shift ended just to spend the rest of the night continuing to make use of the new space. While I was busy with my daily stop at the hardware store, I noticed some rats had decided to move into Blomkast. That wouldn't be too strange, but all the rats I encountered throughout the town were acting rather peculiar. I wonder what that is all about. Almer found himself in quite a pickle. A stork had made a nest on top of his chimney. Almer's only way to heat up his house was to use the fireplace. Moving the stork's nest was also off of the table, as it was prohibited by forces even higher up than him. There hasn't been a hint of snow around Blomkast, so I think Almer just needs to put on his big boy pants and deal with it. The morning's commotion didn't end there. The council's van with all the biohazardous signs wasn't parked outside this county anymore. The entrance to the forest was still blocked off, even though the investigation seems to have ended. Aunt Teller wouldn't have this though, so she ordered us to find a way into the forest. An extremely profitable trade deal was just waiting to be negotiated with the owner of the factory. With all that drama out of the way, I could at long last head for a shift at the market. I have been saving my rewards points up until now for the scanner upgrade. I didn't really know what this meant for the store, but it cost 10 points, so it must be good. Just as I was heading home to catch some Z's after a long day, I was accosted by a shadow man. This shadow man seemed quite upset and even threatened me.
I'm the shadow man. I'll steal your book.
I think you should be worshipping the ground that I'm walking on. I alone have revitalized the economy of this backwater town. Farmer Carl is mad as a hatter as he thinks some sort of creature called a nis has settled on his farm to spread misfortune.
The fun begins.
Solruna, the owner of the antique store, sold him a charm to ward off the so-called mythological nis. The charm was basically some paint on a door in the form of an X. Solruna is definitely scamming this gullible farmer. I still had the issue of trying to find a way into the forest. Guy, the delivery guy, came to my rescue. He would sneak me into the forest by letting me hide in the back of his truck as he does some deliveries for the factory. He didn't even want anything in return. What a guy! Turns out the scanner I unlocked replaces the out-of-date calculator I was using to calculate customers' purchases. All you need to do is place the item on a certain side and ring it up. This would be much faster than manually typing numbers into a calculator. I did have a brain fart or two trying to figure this out though, and might have made a few customers angry while they were waiting for me. Guy was waiting for me in the parking lot as soon as my day was done at this county and swiftly sneaked me into the forest. Here I ran into Tammy again. It turns out she owns the factory. In order to establish a trade deal with her company, she wanted to check out this county first to determine if I treat my customers properly. The irony is not lost on me that a company which produces items made from plastic is so concerned about customers' well-being. This county had just been expanded a few short days ago, but Aunt Teller was already making plans for its next one. I would need to go ask for a loan at the bank for a measly 25,000. Wait, 25 million? Where on earth would I get that amount of gold to pay back the loan? I visited Derek to talk about this loan, thinking he would straight up bluff in my face and tell me to close the door on my way out. But Aunt Teller was right. It was possible to secure this loan. This county would have to be dubbed a real supermarket with requirements attached to this title. So for the first requirement, I'll be focusing on getting my trade deals up to tier 2. My shop was coming together nicely as I tried to find the most optimal and visually appealing layout that I could. I unlocked a few more items to sell in my store through the rewards program after my work day was done. Tammy was waiting outside for me, although she didn't outright say that my service lived up to her expectations during a visit to my store. She did, however, say to come visit her factory when the forest reopens to have a chat. That means she likes me, right? After a successful day at the store making my corporate overlords even richer, I headed to Tammy in the forest, which just reopened to the public. She was happy to establish a trade deal and will supply me with toothpaste. Not what I was expecting to get at all, and I'm kinda concerned with what is put into that toothpaste. I worked and worked my days away. On day 21, I stopped by Carl intending to stock up on some more oats, but he seemed to be coming apart by the seams of his green overalls. His favorite sheep was missing. He seemed to think that the Nis kidnapped his sheep, but I later on found Fluffles wandering around the forest, having the time of its life. Once I returned with Fluffles the sheep, Carl asked me for another favor, to mark all the sheep besides Fluffles for slaughter. I couldn't stand this needless act of violence and decided to teach Carl a lesson. I marked all his sheep, and this made him reconsider the slaughtering of these innocent floofers. This actually worked, and Carl decided to rather start experimenting making sheep's cheese. This brought me to tier 2 in our trade deal, and now I can sell some cheese in my store. The water supply in Blomkast had suddenly become contaminated overnight. How could this even happen? With cheese now readily available through trade, I offered some to the rats next to the hardware store. This offer appeased the rats enough for them to open a sewer grate for me. I jumped right through to see where it leads, and it seems that this is some sort of fast travel through the town. Thank you, my rat friends. I had 3 more trade deals that I needed to get to tier 2, so I started to work on the ones for Barbara and Fisher. But for both of them, I'd have to wait until further notice. Man, things take forever to happen in the corporate world. I worked and worked some more and unlocked even more items for the shop to sell. Me and Fisher had a date to discuss the possibility of upgrading our trade deal, but he was nowhere to be found. So once I was done working, I went around town to find out where Fisher disappeared to. Turns out Fisher only answers his door when knocked against 3 times. So obvious in hindsight, Fisher seemed a bit worse for wear. The whole town was kinda worried about him. Everyone took it upon themselves to help Fisher in some kind of way. Mine was to clean his trusty boat until he was back on his feet again. My mornings were spent cleaning dirt off Fisher's boat. While I was there one morning, I brought my little rat friends a little home to call their own. I unlocked another fast traveling point. Thank you again, my rat friends. I spent the rest of the week increasing shareholder value like a good little worker. Fisher was as happy as a clam again after some much needed off time. He completely moved on from his little episode and excitedly shared a new type of fish that he started catching. This meant I was tier 2 with Fisher at last. 2 done, 2 more to go. In order to upgrade Tammy's trade deal, she wanted a favor first. Barbara has been sighted close to Tammy's factory, and this was pretty suspicious. What was she doing all that way from the docks? Tammy wants us to follow her and see if she was indeed spying. Barbara had asked me to do a questionnaire with 5 different townsfolk a few days before regarding their interest in fish-shaped fish sticks. The responses were quite positive, so Barbara now allowed us to sell it, bringing her trade deal to 2 as well. I kept getting so preoccupied with sorting out stock and making sure everything in my shop was organized that I kept missing the time I was supposed to tell Barbara during a walk through the forest. My store was getting a little overcrowded with the amount of shelves, coolers, and item boosters that the NPCs were starting to get stuck. They would walk up to something and just stand there until closing time. Maybe they were just so blown away by the excellence of my store that they just stood there to admire it. My stealthiness failed me the first night I tried to follow Barbara through the forest. She tricked me by standing still, and I thought I had to interact with her. I didn't fall for her trickery the next time I tried. I stalked her all through her brisk walk through the forest. She somehow knew we were following her and tried to gaslight us into thinking we were crazy for suspecting her. But I won't be so easily fooled, Barbara. I got my eyes on you. By the end of the week, I got Tammy also to tier 2, resulting in me now being able to sell straws. Straws and toothpaste have so little in common besides putting it in your mouth, so her range of items were quite strange to me. With all the trade deals now upgraded to tier 2, I just had 2 other requirements to achieve to become a real supermarket, putting down a payment of 8,000 gold and 4 days of continuous positive customer approval ratings. My rat friends weren't the only ones that could unlock sewer entrances. After feeding this innocent wild sheep some energy drinks, it sped off into the unknown. This unlocked another fast traveling point for me. The docks were even more stinky than before. This time we couldn't blame the stinky fish. The ocean by the docks had turned green. It must be some kind of pollution. Fisher said that the fish don't mind the change though, so that's good I guess. I carried on selling my goods as normal since my approval rating was already in the high 80s. So when day 39 came around, I was in front of Derek's stores the minute my shift ended with 8,000 gold in tow. He suddenly added another requirement to the mix. Now I needed another employee working at this county as well. Aunt Teller is not gonna be happy about this. Derek felt guilty for lying to me about having to have an employee to be considered a real supermarket and thus earning that juicy loan. Derek apologized and asked if we would hire his son Chester. Chester has been up to no good around town. Chester of course overheard this conversation and tried to make a run for it. I got him all cornered, but then he said something ominous. He said he'll show us some business. Oh no, why do I have a bad feeling about this? It turns out my unease at Chester's words were well placed. This little scoundrel decided to open up a lemonade stand right in front of this county, stealing all my customers. I just couldn't let him get away with this. When the little troublemaker wasn't looking, I slipped a bit of shampoo into his lemonade. The townie who Chester has been tormenting to no end was the unlucky recipient of this soapy drink and was not happy at all. Tammy, Chester's mom, had enough of his antics and put her foot down. Chester was gonna be working at this county whether he wanted to or not. On my day off, Chester came by to ask what his duties would be at the store. Apparently, you need to be 18 years or older in this world to run a cash register, so Chester was on restocking duty. My loan was approved by the bank. Man, that was a ton of work just to receive a little piece of paper. Aunt Teller better be happy about this. Junkie, the town hero and so-called inventor of the double key ring, has a house that was turned into a monument or some kind of museum. His house was located right next to this county. Aunt Teller opened my eyes to his blatant lies. He stole the idea of the double key ring and was actually a crook. So it was no surprise when she suggested that we tear it down in favor of this county's expansion. I don't think the townsfolk are gonna take this very well. At least after all that work of turning the store into a real supermarket, I had gained more space for my store. I even had a whole freezer section now. I spent my morning getting the shop all organized and then got to see Chester in action. I was happy to see that I wouldn't need to run around like a headless chicken anymore to restock shelves and coolers and then still help customers at the register. Chester was gonna make things much more convenient for me. My shift had ended long before I actually went home. I spent it still moving around shelves and coolers. Chester was a surprisingly hard worker and didn't leave the whole time I was there. Me and Chester worked well together and I was looking forward to what we would accomplish together with all this new space. My dream for the future was quickly squashed underneath Mrs. Anderson's walking stick. Right outside this county, the evil crone herself was leading a protest against this county tearing down John Key's old house. She called this county my pride and joy ridiculous. Excuse me, ma'am, aren't you the first person inside every morning? The next 2 days were completely ruined as Chester didn't show up to work due to the ongoing strikes happening outside. Customers were rarely entering the store. My corporate overlords were not happy with the dip in sales. At the end of a slow workday on day 46, the old vile witch herself, Miss Anderson, gave me her demands to stop the ongoing protests. She blames this county for all the environmental issues that's been happening around the town. So it was up to us to get to the bottom of it. Everything went back to normal. Chester was working hard at keeping shelves and coolers stocked while I was working the register. The first environmental issue I decided to investigate was the sea turning green. I was going around town asking its residents if they might have any idea as to what caused this. After being led around in what felt like a wild goose chase, Ted was the one to provide me with some useful information. He heard a loud noise by the docks and thinks someone is dumping some sort of substance into the sea. When I arrived at the docks around midnight and gazed over the docks, I saw some strange green substance being dumped into the ocean. Just as I turned around, the shadow man made an appearance once more.
I'm the Shadow Man. I sneak and I creep.
He told us the pipe dumping stuff belongs to none other than Barbara's company. First thing in the morning, I went to confront Barbara about this pipe. She claims it's perfectly legal and the local council even approved of it. My fraud senses are tingling. To buy my silence, she offered to trade me pickles weekly and she would stop dumping waste in the ocean. But now each product's waste became my problem to get rid of. After lining the pockets of the discounty overlords with some more money, I learned my next environmental issue to solve was the contaminated water supply. The first lead I had in the water issue was Tammy. I tried to talk it over with her, but she thought I was accusing her of something. I mean, if she's that defensive, she's gotta be hiding something. With that misunderstanding out of the way, her solution to the undrinkable water was to sell her bottled water in my store. Not quite what I had in mind. Carl was the cause of the undrinkable water. He used some kind of poisonous fertilizer on his potatoes to keep the Nissa's misfortune away from it. Carl is descending even more into madness as he wants us to offer the non-existent creature an offering. I was to gather all the ingredients, one of which needed to be fresh hake. I knew it wasn't going to be as easy as just asking Fisher for some. No, I had to do some ridiculous challenge for Barbara. I had to sell 10 fishy sticks in a day, and only then would she offer me some of the hake Fisher catches solely for her. Turns out it was really difficult to sell 10 fishy sticks in one day. I tried adding more freezers to the collection with fishy sticks and adding more seafood boosters, but I didn't see an increase in fishy stick sales until I decided to move the fishy stick freezers to the front where customers enter. I was still not selling enough of them and was running out of ideas. I picked up item boosters that didn't boost seafood and hung posters around town advertising Barbara's products. All of this finally worked on day 61. I had sold the 10 fishy sticks Barbara wanted me to. She gave me the hake she promised. I could then give the fish to Carl. Carl then laid out the offering of fish mixed with apple for the niece. The offering was completely devoured. The delusional Carl, of course, thought the Nis had accepted his offering. But I think it was my rat friends that grabbed themselves a free, easy meal. The decreasing fish population was the next problem I had to tackle. The corrupt council of Blomkest took Fisher's fishing license from him for this exact reason. How is this poor old Fisher's fault? Surely this would be affecting Barbara as well, so I stopped by her to see if her lawyers could do anything about it. She gave me yet another challenge. This time I had to sell more fishy fishes than actual fish. At least my preparations from the last challenge came in handy for this. Fisher had a fish to pick with us. He was real unhappy with us interfering. Just an old, stubborn man being stubborn. You mess with the fish, you'll get the fin. I'm so sorry, guys. I had one last issue to take care of. There was a strange fog in the forest. Miss Anderson said it gave her a headache. Tammy's plastic factory was located in the forest, so it could be the cause. When I confronted Tammy about this, she denied having anything to do with it. When I asked to see the results of the investigation that was conducted earlier on, she flat out refused to show me. More than just a little suspicious. There was one more person I could turn to for information on the fog, Almer, the town's mayor. As I entered his home, I realized the poor guy was quite sick as he couldn't use his fireplace to heat up his home. This was the final straw for him and outright quit his job. I felt sorry for him and brought him some shelves and empty boxes for kindling for his fireplace. Elmer was feeling better the next day, but unfortunately the stork that made its home on top of his chimney had seen better days. Maybe it might not even be in the land of the living anymore. The departed stork aside, Elmer said he didn't actually quit his job and will help infiltrate Tammy's office later today. Inside Tammy's office, we learned that she really has nothing to do with the fog, but the report did indicate that the fog is caused by all the other environmental issues. So Tammy was actually just trying to protect the townsfolk. The Shadow Man appeared once again out of nowhere.
I'm the Shadow Man. Look at my fingers.
We had a lovely chat that was full of threats and such. Aunt Teller overheard and even agreed that I should blame Tammy at the town meeting that will happen later today. I didn't feel like blaming Tammy, so I just outed all the townies that were to blame for the issues around town, including this county. Aunt Teller took all the blame upon herself for forcing me to do this and said wouldn't be going ahead with further expansions. I thought I had chosen the wrong option, so I reloaded the entire day to pick the other option of blaming it all on Tammy. Theirs turned out quite similar, but Aunt Teller just took all the glory for herself. I was just hoping for an end where I could have an even bigger shop. Damn you, Teller! In honor of all the issues that were resolved, there would be a fair held in town. The fair came included with the infamous lemonade stand. Hopefully, this time there's no shampoo in it. After speaking to all the townsfolk, I returned to Miss Anderson to start the celebration of the annual Blomkest Fair. This signaled the end of the game in terms of story, and we were blessed with some wonderful celebratory confetti. Getting this far took a fair amount of hours, and I was feeling pretty accomplished at this point in the game. All that was left was to earn 100%, and I did so fairly easily by selling 365 apples and cleaning 10 dirt spills in a day. The last one didn't pop though, but it's a thought that counts, right? It's pretty satisfying to be able to complete the game fully within 100 days, especially when those days can get kinda long sometimes. All in all, I thoroughly enjoyed my time in this county. It has been released in a pretty solid state, and apart from a few visual glitches and NPC glitches, it's a fun, cozy shop sim that will keep you busy for hours and hours. I might drop some tips for it as well in the future, so like and subscribe for more Ezlilyy. And I will see you in the next video.